When you get to the end of the interview, you need to ask questions. If you don't ask any questions, they're going to assume you didn't prepare and you're not interested in the role. So it's critical. And while I'm sure you've heard this advice before, there is a massive difference between asking great questions and terrible questions. Now, I've made a lot of videos about great questions you can ask, but in today's video, I'm gonna give you 7 questions that you should never ask at the end of the interview because they are terrible questions. You'd be better off saying nothing. Let's go. Now, the first question I need you to never ask in an interview, if you're talking to the recruiter, if you're talking to an HR person, if you're talking to a hiring manager, and they say, do you have any questions for me? The first question you can never ask is, what is it that your company does? Now, this might be absurd, right? You might hear that and go, well, Ben, nobody would ever ask that. Wrong, wrong, wrong. It does happen. I was a corporate recruiter, and I can't tell you how many times I jumped onto a no-phone interview, and I said, do you have any questions for me? And they said, what is it that your company does? And at the time, I was working for a Fortune 500 company that they applied to. What do you mean, what is it that my company does? So this does happen. So never ask this question and make sure at a bare minimum you do research on what the company does. The next question you should never ask is, what are you looking for in a candidate? If you have been through the application process, you applied, you read the job description, you went to the interview, you had a conversation with a person, at the very end they go, do you have any questions for me? And you ask this question, it's not going to make you come off in a good light. And here's why. It's going to basically show them that you didn't pay a lot of attention to the job description, right? Like, what is it you look for in a candidate? Well, some of it is already here. It's just a very bad way to phrase this question. This is a question where they're going to hear it and go, you should probably already know the answer to that. You saw the job description. You've been talking to me. I talked you through it. It's going to come off as a filler question or worse, uninformed. So do not ask this question. This question, you cannot ask it. And it is, if I do a good job, how long will it take for me to be promoted? Okay, hiring managers hate this question with a capital H. And here's why. What they're basically hearing when you say, how long will it take for me to get promoted if I do a good job, is I'm already looking past your role. I'm looking at the next role. Now, it is not unreasonable for you to want growth and advancement in your next opportunity. We all want that. But if when you interview, you say that, the hiring manager is thinking, I have a problem. My problem is I have an open position, and this person who I am talking to is already thinking about creating this problem for me again, because they are already thinking about the next role. Do not ask this question. No hiring manager will like you asking this question. Hey, if you are finding value in this video, do me a favor, hit that like button. Guess what? It is free. Tells YouTube I don't suck, motivates me to make more videos, and it helps the channel a ton. And if you're willing to do that, well, then hit subscribe as well. The next question is, what can your company offer me? This is a very cocky question to ask, right? Saying, hey, what can you offer me? Why should I come work here? What can you do for me? This is one of those things that sounds great in a meme, but does not actually work in an interview. In many interviews, companies might say, why should we hire you? So a lot of people think, well, turnabout's fair play. I should be able to ask the same exact question. Yeah, except they're not going to hire you. If you say this type of question, it's going to be incredibly off-putting to the hiring manager. They're probably going to go with another candidate. So I would avoid saying a question like this. The next question you should avoid asking is, can I work from home? Working from home is great. I work from home 4 days a week, and I think there are a lot of opportunities out there in which you can work from home. But here's the thing. If that company does not offer working from home, right, what they're going to hear is that's what you want. And if you ask that question at the end of your interview, they're immediately going to think, oh, this person doesn't want to come into the office. And if that's what they want, they're not going to want to hire you. Now, there's an appropriate time and place to ask this question. And that's with the recruiter. When you're talking to a recruiter, you can say, hey, what does a week in the life of someone in this role look like? And they'll walk you through roles, responsibility, and in all likelihood, location. Is it remote? Is it an office? Is it hybrid? And if they don't actually address that, you'd be like, okay, what is your current policy in terms of in the office, hybrid, or remote? And when you ask it like that, you're not actually tipping your hat as to you're not showing them what you want, right? You're just saying, hey, I'm asking because I want to know. But I think ask the recruiter as opposed to the hiring manager. The recruiter is more used to getting questions like this, whereas a hiring manager, they might have a propensity to be off-put by you asking that question, and ask it in a way that makes it seem like you're not angling towards getting work from home. If you are truly in the position where you're like, hey, I'm gonna accept a work from home job, otherwise kick rocks, okay, that's fine. But if you're like most of us and it's like, you wanna get the job offer and be able to make the decision, then I would ask it in the way I've suggested as opposed to saying, can I work from home? The next question I want you to avoid is, why should I wanna work for you? This is similar to the one earlier, but it's another question that sometimes people ask, and it's a terrible question. It makes you come off as entitled, and it's just a type of aggressive question that maybe, again, plays well in a meme, but plays much less well in an actual interview with hiring manager who has options. You know, if you have 3 to 4 candidates and they're all equal, and one of those candidates goes, hey, why should I work for you? And the other people ask like regular, non-aggressive questions, they're gonna go with one of the other people. So I get the idea that interviews are two-way streets, and they absolutely are. And you should ask questions about what you're going to get as an employee. But it's really important to ask those questions in ways that aren't off-putting to the hiring manager, because the last thing you want to do is jeopardize your candidacy by asking in a way that's overly aggressive or entitled. The next question you should avoid is, what time do I get to leave every day? Some of you probably hearing that and go, Ben, nobody asks that question. Yes, yeah, people actually do ask that question. And you shouldn't ask that question. I mean, again, there's a time and a place for asking about schedule, and there's a way to say that question. Instead, you could say to the recruiter, okay, what are the hours for this person? But saying, what are the hours for this person to the recruiter, or saying, what time do I get to leave every day to the hiring manager, those are very different things, and they will cause you to have very different outcomes. So instead of asking this to the hiring manager, if you have questions about the schedule, and you should want to know what hours you have to work, what are their expectations, are they reasonable? That's a good question to ask the recruiter. And if you don't get a chance to talk to the recruiter and you need to ask that to a hiring manager, instead of asking, what time do I get to leave, say, what does the schedule look like for this person? And they'll probably share it that way. You'll get the same result, but it's a much better question to ask. Now, some of you are saying, okay, great, those questions all sound terrible. I agree, thank you. What are the good questions? Right here. I made this video here. It's 27 great questions to ask at the end of your interview. And honestly, it's probably the only video on what questions to ask you will ever need again. So I'm done here, but I will see you over there.